Hello, I'm Margareta Scherfhuser from Ofwat, the water regulator in England and Wales.
And I'm Freddie Levette, also from Ofwat. Welcome to Spark, our digital innovation channel. At Spark, we're meeting experts in innovation and new thinking from a range of sectors and industries.
We're asking them to showcase their experience and knowledge and inspire the water sector to go further in their thinking.
Last week, we found out that innovation takes many shapes and forms, and we found out that there's a need to innovate more in a changing world.
Well, this week we're looking at what it takes to create a culture of innovation. So what does it take to create a spark? We found out more.
Turning ideas into innovation takes more than just a creative spark. It takes people. So how important is a culture of innovation to one of the world's biggest companies?
Having the right purpose and the right culture, and actually purpose and culture together drive the right outcome for innovation, because there's always going to be new technology changes, new global economic changes in the political environment, the macroeconomic environment, so you can't necessarily always future-proof yourself against those changes, but if you've got the right mission and purpose and the right culture, then you can be pretty confident about having the right outcome. There's lots of kind of different eras of people at Microsoft. People have been around 20 plus years, 10-ish years like me, people in the last couple of years with this transformation. So the culture around those, how we're measured and structured, helps that learning, and we're incentivized, and it's part of our core mindset to do that. The tools and processes also do as well. So, as a Microsoft employee, we use our own capabilities in-house. We use technology to help us collaborate, to talk to each other, whether we're in the office or geographically dispersed, and we work in the open. And so, we have a CEO connection Yammer page on one of our tools where anyone can ask Satya a question, and he answers it in the open, and people, talk about it. And if it gets sensitive, maybe it gets hived off. But in general, we're encouraged to do that, and that helps us in the UK. There's a few thousand of us. We've got a big knowledge here. Work with our colleagues in other countries. Work with corporate engineering in Redmond and Seattle. And so the culture and the tools really foster that sense of collaboration and therefore innovation.
So that was Microsoft. But what about one of the UK's biggest companies?
Culture of innovation is really important here for us at BT, and whilst we operate a central innovation unit and a central team, we also try and inspire the whole workforce of over 100,000 people to innovate as well. And to do that, we need to find ways and mechanisms of doing that. We have our new idea scheme that crowdsources ideas from all our employees, and then we incentivize and reward those ideas that go to launch. And we have our Challenge Cup program where teams can work together in a series of rounds where they can present their ideas to our senior management team as well. And then our leadership team, so our executives all through the organization understand the importance of innovation and really help challenge their teams and their business to think differently and make sure that when they're making the decisions, they are the right decisions that can create new products and services that will set us apart from our competitors. Have some willingness that you have to trial and accept with innovation there's always going to be some failure, and you're never going to have a 100% success rate. So taking small steps, trialing products, getting those out to market, and being ready to fail and learn from those lessons and then take those into your new products and services is really important.
So we heard from two very large businesses there, but is it the same for other businesses?
Flipper is an energy retail service that continually switches customers to their best deals.
I think fostering innovation is often about communication, isn't it? And I think it's really easy for a business or a regulator or somebody to go out and say, we need to innovate more. And that's great. You can give that message, but you have to provide the means to innovate. You have to allow people the time, you have to create the space, you have to create the right environment. It's only if you do those things you can evidence you're really serious about innovation.
Bromford is a company that provides new and affordable homes and provided a range of services aimed at reducing welfare dependency and generating social value.
What you have to create is a culture where people recognise the difference, people recognise that we do need to do our business as usual and to deliver to customers and to deliver value to them, but we also need to reserve some of that for thinking differently. So the culture needs to be something that actually recognises there's an inherent conflict and recognises actually that we'll need to be flexible in our approach about how we do those two things.
Interesting views there on some of the key ingredients for an innovative culture. But how do you go about creating a culture that allows people to create? How does that even happen? We took a closer look. Typeway is the infrastructure company building a new super sewer beneath London.
I've always said that culture is at the heart of innovation, and it just, for me, culture is all about the people, and you can't have innovation and you can't create that culture of innovation without supporting the people doing it. So for me that starts with leadership, really strong vocal leadership from CEOs to project directors, and for me it's for them sending that message out that innovation is really important to them. And practically that is giving people who are working every day, either out on site or in the office, the space and the time to think differently and think of new ideas. I think part of the culture that you need to build around innovation is sharing and sharing knowledge. And for me, it's building a culture of recognising the small things as well as the big. And once you start to recognise the small parts and share that across sites, then people start to think more about the big stuff and how they could tackle the really big challenges.
Leadership can create a protective umbrella where it's okay to fail. It's not necessarily something that you celebrate, but as long as you learn, that's okay. And part of that is that if you're going to risk failures, there's occasionally going to be bad news. But bad news early is actually good news. And so leadership has a key role in doing that, so that the company, the organization, and the individuals have that tolerance to take risk, so you have the opportunity to win, but you're always rebalancing as you learn from the less positive experiences.
I think the top down is the place to start, by setting that purpose and helping drive the culture. But unless the culture is embedded everywhere, it won't be successful. So the leadership can set the purpose and the mission, and the leadership can set the principles around culture. But then we need to have that through the rest of the management community and through the people on the ground to make it successful. One of the big things that Satya did that has helped us jump from just incremental product updates and innovation to looking at some of the future is breaking down some of the internal silos. And so it used to be that we were very much, there was the Windows division and there was the Office division and the server division, and success in one area wouldn't necessarily bleed over to the next and wouldn't necessarily bleed over to the next. And he's very much reconfigured and changed some of the structure from the top down to support working collaboration across that. He's also helped change through our Chief People Officer some of the incentives and the way that we're measured internally. So we are measured, and I'm measured, and everyone at Microsoft is measured on individual impact, so stuff that I'm doing, helping others succeed, so what I'm doing to help my colleagues be successful, but also building on the success of others. So I won't be successful unless I can demonstrate to my leadership that I'm taking ideas, collateral, product features, code, and bringing it into my work. And unless I'm doing all three of those things, actually that directly impacts my performance review at the end of the year. So that's a top-down leadership directive, but bottom up, it helps foster a culture of, I want to work with you because actually I can help you succeed and you can help me succeed, and that helps us collectively together.
It's really getting these innovative ideas across the line and getting these products and services out to market. And the challenge often is it's getting people to adjust and learn in different ways and adapt to these new ideas and products, and often being willing to fail and learn from those failures as well. That's really important. Otherwise, often you can often stagnate and not take any risks and not move forward as well.
I think typically, from my experiences outside of Flipper and also within Flipper, I mean, we've tried really hard to create that communication ethos which runs up and down the business, throughout. But also that space for great conversation, the space for exploration, that it's okay to make mistakes. Most brilliant ideas come from making a few mistakes, and actually having a lessons learned, which we do, don't we, process in place to make sure that when you're getting things wrong, you're at least capturing the learnings from that, so it helps with your next innovation or your next idea. I think all of those things are important. So culturally, you have to have people that want to make things happen or want to be a part of something. And I think as a leadership team, the communication and actually it's more about what you do rather than what you say, I think, and that's what really breeds a culture where people are able to innovate.
You know, my view is that everybody's open ultimately to innovation. Nobody comes into a job to say they want to do it for the next 5, 10, 20 years in exactly the same way. Nobody's born that way. What happens though is that people get measured on performance in a certain way, they're expected to deliver in a certain way, and over time that's how they start to deliver, and that's what they respond to. So how you can start overcoming that is by having conversations with people about the kind of ideas you've got, about what you could do differently, and giving them space sometimes to think about actually how would they approach that, and to do it in a kind of safe way. So not just to let them go off and do it, essentially. That's not innovation. Innovation is about thinking about the problem you're trying to solve and then applying some creativity and then testing some things out.
So a culture of innovation brings in different perspectives to help generate better ideas and refine them.
That's right, and leadership sets the tone of an organisation's culture and so encourages innovation.
Great, so that brings us to the end of this week's episode of Spark. A big thank you to our contributors. You can catch the full interviews with them on YouTube over the coming week.
We'd also love if you could share your thoughts on anything you've seen or heard. In particular, what do you think is the most important thing for creating a culture that encourages innovation?
You can send us your take on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and through emails. Don't forget to use our hashtag.
And on Friday, we'll be bringing you a live sum up of the best bits on Periscope, a live streaming tool on Twitter, and we're going to interview a special guest. And coming up next week, why are so many organisations collaborating with each other to innovate? And why are some of these even collaborating with their own customers and communities?
So that's it from us for now.
Goodbye.